Scared for Reals 1987.
Hey, it's Adam Perry.
Hey, Chris O'Neill.
All right, Chris, so we're going to do something a little different. We're going to have a series of shows now where we thought it'd be interesting to highlight some of the movies from our birth years.
So we're doing a series within a series?
Kind of, yeah.
Nice.
So I was born in 1987, and I'm going to go first with my pick, and we're going to talk about a movie that I absolutely love. It was... I had a handful of movies growing up that I always rented from the video store. This was one of them, and that is Fred Decker's 1980s The Monster Squad.
You know, Adam, I think this might be a movie where you and I are in like 100% agreement with.
Yeah.
Because I didn't need to rent this at the video store. My parents had HBO, and it was like a staple on there. And let me tell you, I can't count how many times I watched that growing up. So I watched it whenever it was on HBO, but I also recorded it onto VHS and watched it over and over and over.
Same here.
And my parents would come in, oh, not the Monster Squad, because I mentioned in my childhood ones, before the Monster Squad, it was Once Upon a Time in the West, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Planet of the Apes, and Metropolis to a certain degree, and it would kind of rotate. Well, Monster Squad was kind of the same thing. It was kind of, it wasn't played as much, but almost as much. I mean, it was just such a great film. And then to discover years later that this movie was a box office bomb.
Bomb to say the least. So a budget of $14 million, box office, and only made $3.8 million back. Unfortunately, but again, as we'll discuss, this movie really found its life on home video, on HBO, and really amassed this incredible cult following to the point where just a few years ago,
it was like 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago.
An incredible documentary called Wolfman's Got Nards, directed and written by Andre Gower, who plays Sean in the Monster Squad, and that brought on a life of its own and led to the movie getting its own first ever Blu-ray release. And
as a matter of fact, if you don't have Monster Squad on 4K, you buy it through Shout Factory, and the Wolfman's Got Nards is with that. It's like the third disc. Yeah. And it's been attempting. I have it on DVD. I promised my wife I wouldn't double dip unless it was a Scorsese, Hitchcock, Kubrick, or Kurosawa. So I was this close to the last time they had a sale. I was almost pulled the trigger on it. But
the Wolfman Got Nards doc alone is worth it. I mean,
and you actually spoke with Andre, didn't you?
My brother did. I was off that day, but yes, on my old podcast, Scarifier, we did have a 2-hour-long interview with Andre Gower, and we had set up to do a second interview with him, and he was going to try to bring Ryan Lambert in, who played Rudy. Yeah. And then, unfortunately, Andre Gower suffered a massive heart attack, and he's been under the radar ever since. So I hope his recovery is well. I hope he's healthy today, because that's scary, and all thoughts go out to Andre Gower. But you can still find that interview on YouTube if you look up my old podcast, Scarifier. He's a very open, wonderful guy, down to earth. What I noticed, in the interactions with my brother and our partner Kira, who was co-interviewing him, is he's just a movie fan, and he loves movies. And once you got him going, like he was one of those guys that really opened up and just talked to the world. Right. Hopefully, maybe someday we'll be able to reconnect and get him on here again. Right. Since his heart attack, he's been very much under the radar. I haven't seen much of him.
What we'll try to do is you share the link on our social medias of that interview for people who want to listen to it. But yeah, I mean, speaking of film fans, Fred Decker himself was a film fanatic, and I mean. I didn't realize this, but watching, I don't have the Wolfman Has Nards on on home video, but there is like a lengthy 80-minute behind the scenes on the DVD, and it goes into detail about Fred Decker. I mean, apparently a couple of years before the Monster Squad, he helped make some contributions to House.
Yeah.
And then Night of the Creeps. Have you ever seen? I haven't seen that.
Night of the Creeps is
so you've seen it.
Yeah. It is every bit of B-budget horror you can think of, starring Tom Atkins.
Yeah, Tom Atkins. There's a cult icon right there.
And I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it's a favorite in most of the horror community.
Right.
Corny, fun, horror movie. And
but it's like I've seen clips of that, and then you watch the Monster Squad, and it's like the Monster Squad only a year later, like a seasoned pro, and the guy it was only his second movie as a director.
Well, the Monster Squad was really a passion project for him. And I think that, and this is why, if you watch Wolfman's Got Nards, and when Andre's talking to Fred Decker about it, it's a very bittersweet for him because he really thought it was, along with everybody who was making this movie, that this movie was going to be huge and a game changer, and then it was the exact opposite.
Well, it started off on the wrong foot anyways because they didn't get Universal's approval.
Which was a big mistake.
Yeah.
And I think that led to the reason why it wasn't as big as it could have been. I think if you had Universal Studios backing it, and then you throw in the Stan Winston monsters, instead of going the more independent route, I think it would have been a way bigger movie. I certainly would have made its money back at least. But this, excuse me. I hate to go on another bash Universal rant, but this has been the ongoing issue with Universal and these monsters. They don't respect their intellectual properties that they have.
Right.
They're constantly shooting themselves in the foot with every opportunity possible when it comes to these monsters. And it's really, really frustrating because, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a super fan who've spent most of my horror research in this realm.
Right.
I'm saying it because I see it. If you go to Spirit Halloween right now, and this kind of just put out, this is a good kickoff to the Halloween season, talking Monster Squad.
Right.
As we're approaching mid-September, so all the Halloween shops are open now, and you see the Universal Monsters presence more prominent than it's been in so long. You see the logo, and it's Frankenstein, and it's Dracula, and it's the Wolfman, and but as far as like the movies come, we just had the release of the new quote unquote Wolfman that Blumhouse and Universal are paired up to do. And it's just a mess. There's no respect to the original content.
No.
There's no, I mean, as bad as the 2010 Wolfman was, at least there was a respect to actually give us a Wolfman.
Yeah, you had an Oscar-winning actor playing the Wolfman, which is a lot more than Blumhouse can offer. And
Rick Baker won an Oscar for his makeup for that movie. And so now with this new one, I mean, again, we're seeing images of this quote-unquote Wolfman. He doesn't even look like a wolf. He looks like I'm going to tell you guys exactly what this movie's going to be, because it's just going to be like what The Invisible Man was. It's going to be it's got its political agenda, unfortunately.
Well, even Ryan Gosling wouldn't touch it because he was supposed to be in this Wolfman that we're talking about.
And they were supposed to, and when he was attached to it, he was supposed to be an actual werewolf.
Right.
They were actually supposed to make a werewolf movie, and then the director signed on, who did Invisible Man, and again, it's I hate getting political, but it's got its political commentary, and whether you like this or not, it's basically going to be toxic masculinity,
Well, and that's been like an ongoing thing, and that's what a lot of. I mean, I know Avatar, the second Avatar, did very well, but James Cameron going around and saying this is all about toxic masculinity, it's like, can't we just enjoy a fun sci-fi movie, horror film?
But even if it is, my problem is with it is like they know this movie's going to be bad. All right, they're not even giving us a quote unquote werewolf. What you're getting is what looks like a father who goes crazy and he's like feral, like he has rabies or something. Like he doesn't actually. There's no lycanthropy in it. He doesn't turn into a werewolf. Mm-hmm. Which hence Wolf Man.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to make a movie about a dad who goes crazy and he's this toxic macho man and starts taking it out on his family, make that movie. Yeah. Don't call it the Wolfman to put butts in the seats because the new movie's not going to make any other money any other way.
Yeah, hire Russell Crowe to play like the movie Rampage and just have him go nuts and go crazy.
It's just
call it something else.
But again,
that's why the new movie
you tag Wolfman on it. You're gonna guarantee some sort of audience.
Well, that's what they tried to do with the Crow too, and that was unsuccessful. They'll call it Eric Draven. No,
and again, and I'll even go as far as this: the Invisible Man that he did. All right, had they called it something else, probably would have done a way better.
Right.
All right, but the thing is they promoted it as this is the Invisible Man. This is and we're remaking the classic, Universal's classic Invisible Man. Mm-hmm. All right. But the problem was with the movie, it had nothing to do with the movie it was trying to remake or the book that the movie was originally based off of.
Right.
So, I mean, it had an invisible person in it, sure. But that's not the Invisible Man. The Invisible Man is based off the H.G. Wells sci-fi classic, which is what the 1932 Universal Monster movie that they were remaking was.
Right.
This Wolfman is not the Siodmak written, starring Lon Chaney Jr., Wolfman.
Right.
This is going to be something totally different with not even a wolf in it.
Well, not even Ryan Gosling anymore.
And they're calling it the Wolfman to just put butts in seats. Again, the political commentary, I don't, if that's the type of movie you want to make, but don't call it something that it's not just to put butts in seats.
Call it the Monster Squad. That's what Ryan Decker did.
Yeah.
And he has the Universal monsters in there. They're different, but they're done respectively.
And that's the thing. So yes, back to our talking point. The Monster Squad, yes. Universal wouldn't back them for whatever reason because they're dumb. But thankfully, these monsters are public domain.
Right.
All right. So unless you make Frankenstein look like Boris Karloff, you're not going to get in trouble.
Right.
Unless you make Dracula look like Bela Lugosi, you're not going to get in trouble.
And it was genius. The different
Stan
costumes.
Winston's monsters in this movie are insane.
Yes.
And like especially the Gill Man.
Oh, I know.
The Gill Man that they put in this movie is so creepy and so terrifying. And but again,
he was like the whole idea. Decker was like we are. He loved these movies, and he was thinking of maybe doing like a Little Rascals or Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein kind of thing.
Right.
And then he kind of combined them in a way.
Yes.
Because you have these rascal-like misfit kids who love to hang out and love talking about monster films.
Yes.
I mean, I think all of us wished we had our own little club like that,
Right. Exactly.
I know I didn't. I couldn't. I've had some great friends over the years, but none of them love movies as much as I do. So it would have been great to have like a little club like this, but it's just such a fun concept of these kids. They idolize these monsters, and they're the ones that save the day when the monsters through the dimensions crossing over from way back in time to the present day. It was just genius how that was done.
Right.
To me, it's like if I was the person backing, if I was a financial, we got a hit on our hands. This is fun.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of passion, and you know how I've talked about like the love for the characters.
Right.
Decker had a lot of love, and you could feel it. Every scene, you could sense there was a love for all of the characters, the human and the monsters.
Yes.
And it was just such a well done movie, and it's one of those puzzles. Why did this bomb? It's very interesting.
So to just be for sake of this is what we do. We'll run through the plot real quick.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Take it away.
So the movie starts off in Transylvania in the 17th century. Abraham Van Helsing is leading an attack on Dracula's castle.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and he's got a teenage virgin with him, and what he is going to do is he's going to use the sacred amulet, and the virgin is gonna read this cantation that opens up a portal to limbo.
Right.
And hopefully suck Dracula and his wives and all the monsters into limbo and eradicate the world from monsters forever.
Right.
Well, it doesn't go to plan.
It never does it?
Yeah. So we skip to modern times where, and it doesn't really say where this takes place, but obviously it's in the States.
Right. It's in the United States.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the amulet itself has made its way to this location in, we'll say, Southern California, because that's kind of looks like where it is.
And let's give a shout out to David Proval, the usually in gangster movies playing the part of a pilot, kind of a throwaway role.
Yeah.
But he's quite memorable in the opening when all these caskets are on an airplane.
Yes. Yeah. So
anyways, go ahead.
So as we go, Dracula has now finally found the amulet after 200 years of searching, and it's brought him to this Southern California. He's taken over an abandoned mansion with his wives. Then we find out that we have a werewolf on our hands.
He's in some sort of cage.
He's been arrested, and he's trying to tell everybody to lock him up because he's going to turn into a werewolf. He ends up getting shot by the police and presumably killed. And then as he's being transported to the morgue, our full moon shows up, and then we get to see our Wolfman finally.
And that's the thing, just like Larry was in the Wolfman, he doesn't want to be the Wolfman. See, he wants to die. He wants to end the curse.
And again, this is why a Wolfman works, and this is why the 2010 movie didn't work, because when we meet Larry Talbot, played by Benicio del Toro, he's already had a life so messed up. He's already a tragic character. Right. Whereas compared to the original Wolfman with Lon Chaney, the tragedy is that he has been bitten by a werewolf and he doesn't want to kill people.
Right.
Same thing with this Wolfman in Monster Squad. He knows he's going to change. He doesn't want to hurt people, and he's trying to convince people to stop this. Right. And of course, we can't.
No.
So
the adults can't.
Yes, the adults can't. So so we meet our Wolfman.
Right.
All right. And as you were just alluded to, we find Dracula flying from wherever he is to California via plane, and there's a wonderful scene with Dracula and this pilot being scared by the bat, and the Frankenstein monster and Dracula land in a bog.
Yes.
In this Southern California area. Again, we don't really know where it is, and they don't really give us a location.
Yeah. Exteriors were shot at Warner Brothers Studios and the Warner Columbia Ranch in Burbank, California.
So,
and also Universal Studios in Universal City, and on location throughout the L.A. metropolitan area.
Yeah, so Southern California.
So Culver Studios was another one, and anyway, go ahead.
So anyway, in this bog, this is where our Wolfman meets up with Dracula. We find out that a mummy's been, quote unquote, stolen from the local museum. The mummy shows up, and as you could guess, the Frankenstein monster's body is recovered by the Gill Man himself, and now we got our trope of monsters working together to find this amulet and take over the world, led by Dracula, who is played by Duncan Regehr. And I know you're probably going to disagree with me on this, but I really do believe he's the best Dracula since Lugosi. Even Christopher Lee. I think he was so scary and terrifying in this movie.
And that's the thing. You don't expect him to. I think it's Rhaegar.
Duncan Rhaegar.
Rhaegar.
It's a weird list.
But here's something, I don't know if you noticed this or not. There was a documentary I was watching. They had another actor in mind. Mm-hmm. Liam Neeson.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah, this was like this was before Darkman was like a few years after.
Yeah.
He had been like a bad guy in some of the Dirty Harry movies, and he was in Crawl, he was in The Mission, and The Bounty. I mean, he had been as like a tough supporting actor for many years. But him as Dracula would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Would have had an Irish accent, because only one movie where Liam Neeson escapes his Irish accent, and that's Schindler's List.
Right.
Every other movie he's in, he's got the Irish accent.
Well, I mean, speaking of accents, though, what I found very, interesting is like he didn't try to do a Transylvanian accent.
No,
he just kind of did his own thing, and it was the tone of his voice was just terrifying.
And Duncan, the only other thing I remember him was the TV show Zorro.
Yeah,
but he was in a lot of TV productions. But man, as Dracula, he is top tier,
Yeah.
I wouldn't put him above Christopher Lee, but he is really cool how he made Dracula his own.
Yes,
and he didn't copy Lugosi. He made it into his own. And he has some truly frightening scenes where he picks up the little girl and hisses at her. It's like, wow.
I mean, like you could just tell that like he really embraced Dracula. Like when I think of Dracula, like, amongst these monsters, to me, he's like Darth Vader. He's like he is Darth Vader as we originally saw him in the original trilogy.
Right.
All right. Now what they did with him with the prequel movies and so forth. When you first met Darth Vader in A New Hope, this man was evil personified. There was no compromising with him. He was the scariest thing in the universe. This is what the Dracula we get with Duncan.
Yeah.
And the perfect nothing because he just doesn't care. Like you said, he's going after the kids. He tells the Frankenstein monster that you're going to kill him if they don't.
Right.
Like there's no remorse. There's no compromise. And I think one of the best scenes with Duncan is when he shows up in the villa to retrieve the amulet, and the cops are just going after him, and he's just mowing them down like it's nothing.
Right.
And it's just, and he doesn't lose eye contact with Phoebe, the little girl.
Yeah, and
it's just like
when he picks her up and hisses at her, like that was like, wow.
Yeah, but
that was a frightening scene, though.
But leading up to that, as everybody's trying to stop him, and he's just mowing everybody down, like it's just
tossing them aside like they're nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just he was so good, and I would have loved to see him do more Dracula, but unfortunately, we never got.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got this, and it definitely showed the guy could do something other than play Zorro.
Yeah, yeah.
But man, what a tremendous performance, though. It's, and I'm glad more and more people are discovering this movie and finding out about Duncan's amazing Dracula.
Yes. All right. So as the story progresses, we find we meet our monster squad. So we got the leader Sean.
Yeah.
And
I can never. You got Patrick.
I can never remember that because you got Patrick, his buddy. All right, like kind of his second
Rudy.
hand.
You got Rudy.
You got the bad boy Rudy, and then you got fat kid Horace.
Yeah.
And then you got Phoebe, who's Sean's little
sister. Who just she loves her big brother and
wants to be a part.
Right.
And he's doing the teenage big brother thing. Get away from me.
Yeah. Right. But I think we have siblings, so we can relate to the annoying little sister. I can.
Right.
And you had a brother,
and it's the same thing. When you're at that age where you just you're looking for some sort of independence, and you got a little tag along. Right. You don't want it. Even though you end up becoming best friends later in life, it's it's just what it is. So we meet our monster squad, and we find out that Sean's mother at a garage sale or a thrift store picks up Van Helsing's diary.
Which is from the beginning of the movie.
Which is used in the beginning of the movie with the incantation for the limbo. And he can't read it because it's in German. Well, we meet another character that's an elderly gentleman they call the scary German guy.
The scary German guy is Leonard Cimino. This guy, I remember him, it was like a couple years later, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yes.
If you are Scottish law, then I am Mickey Mouse. And he really didn't have he lived a long life, but he didn't really, I'm looking at his filmography. I haven't seen a lot of these movies, but he was in a lot of them. Mm-hmm. He did shoot some scenes for Hannibal, but they got deleted. And his final film role was actually Sidney Lumet's final film role before The Devil Knows You're Dead, which is a doozy of a film with Ethan Hawke and Philip Seymour Hoffman, the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman. Yeah. If you ever get a chance to watch that, it's powerful. But he was always a memorable face, no matter what movie.
Sure.
And he was a lot of fun. He was very intimidating looking, but he was actually the nicest guy.
Yeah. So another thing, to just backtrack a little bit here, talking about Sean's mother, played by the one and only Mary Ellen Trainor.
Yeah, she was another one that she popped up in a lot of different movies too.
Yeah, so Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, Ricochet, the mother in the Goonies, which is basically, you could argue this is a ripoff of the Goonies.
No.
Yes, kid.
No.
It's an argument.
No, I'll fight tooth and nail. This is more entertaining than the Goonies any day. I'll take this over the Goonies any day. And
that's an argument, but for another day.
Yeah. I can kind of see the only similarities are the kids are the ones solving the problems, and coming out big at the end. But to me, one's more of a heist movie, and this one's more of the monsters.
Right.
I prefer this movie myself.
But either way, Goonies.
Goonies was okay.
Romancing the Stone. She was in everything.
She was in a lot of stuff in
Forrest
the 80s.
Gump, Freaky Friday. So, and unfortunately, we lost her in 2015. But she was everywhere in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
Particularly playing like a mother.
Yeah,
character.
she was like your mom in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they meet the scary German guy who translates Van Helsing's diary for the kids, and they soon start realizing that the monsters are real, and only they can stop Dracula and his posse.
Posse.
Yeah, and so Dracula somehow finds out that Sean is in possession of the Van Helsing diary and sends the Frankenstein monster out to retrieve it, and by all means necessary, if that even means killing the kids. Well, it's the Frankenstein monster, and the Frankenstein monster is a sympathetic character.
He always was.
And he befriends the children.
Especially Phoebe. They have a special bond. And let's talk about Tom Noonan, who plays Frankenstein's monster. This is an unusual departure for him. Mm-hmm. Yes, he's usually played monster-like characters, but look, a year before this, he was the Red Dragon in Manhunter.
Yep.
And a year later, he was in RoboCop. He wasn't too nice in that movie either. So, he's noted for his bad guy persona, and in this movie, he gets to show a different side of him. And watching interviews, he seems like such a warm, friendly guy.
Yeah.
And it just shows how incredible of an actor he really is. Mm-hmm. So, such a huge presence, too. The guy is huge.
Yeah.
He's like 6'6", 6'7",
Big
something
guy.
like that.
Big guy.
And I think he wore platforms to make himself even taller.
Yeah.
So.
You can see it. He's at least 7 inches taller than,
Right. He kind of stayed away from, what I understand is he stayed away from the kids on the set, but that was because of the character,
Yeah, he wanted to make it real for the kids. And
that scene where he when Sean pushes him and then he shoves him, that was like a real reaction. And it kind of freaked Andre out too, from what I understand.
Right.
But it made for a great performance.
Sure.
And I know movie critics, they don't really talk about, performances in monster horror, lower budget films. But Tom Noonan, man, that guy in the 80s, he had like one great film after another.
Yeah.
He really did.
So our Monster Squad knows what they're up against. So we get our wonderful 80s rock and roll montage of them prepping for this big showdown between them and the monsters. That showdown begins with half the group going to look for a virgin to read the incantation, and the other half going to Dracula's abandoned mansion looking for the amulet.
Right.
They find the amulet. They meet at a church in the center of town, just to find out that the virgin that they found is not a virgin.
No, she kind of lied about it.
Yeah, and the monsters are coming at them. All crazy hell's breaking loose. The Wolfman gets blown up and then reforms, and the Gill Man is coming out of the sewer, killing every cop in sight. You got Dracula's bride showing up to get in the mix. And then they realize that the 6-year-old Phoebe can read this incantation, and she does, despite Dracula's efforts, as we discussed, to stop her from reading the incantation. She opens up the portal to Limbo, and one by one, all the monsters begin to get sucked in to the portal, with Dracula trying to take Sean with him, and with a little run-in assistance from Abraham Van Helsing himself. He takes Dracula through the portal with him, and the last, unfortunately, monster to go is our beloved Frankenstein monster, and he has a touching moment with Phoebe as he goes.
People cry in that scene. It was a very bittersweet scene, and the way the girl played Phoebe and Tom Noonan acted that out, it made for a really tearjerker kind of sequence. And it's unusual to have that kind of emotion in a monster-filled movie,
Right.
So it was kind of cool. Did we talk about Eugene at all?
Eugene, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Eugene.
No,
that was
didn't.
one we missed.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. How could we do that? I guess we were so
Eugene,
excited.
his little dog.
Yeah.
Yep. And hey, listen, he's the only kid who can write a letter in crayon to the army and have the army show up.
Yeah, I love it. They literally show up afterwards.
Yeah.
And as a kid, this movie is definitely geared for kids. And Fred Decker really made sure that, especially young, preteen boys, that they would watch this movie. Because man, oh man, didn't we all want to be the heroes in our own stories when we were kids? Overcome something the adults couldn't.
Right.
And that's what it's a very empowering movie for young guys, and we don't have that anymore.
Right. Well, I mean, not just guys, but kids in general.
Well, because Phoebe, she does a lot to help out too. So,
well, I mean,
but young kids, they don't have a lot of movies like this where they're put in control like this, and they are the ones that save the day. That doesn't happen anymore. Not that I can think of.
Well, I mean, it depends on. In like this genre of movie, no, not really. But I mean, you have the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, to a certain degree, yeah.
Well, I mean, it is kids saving the day.
Well, it took a long time for him to save the day. But
well, they saved the day in every movie.
Kind of.
In one form or another.
Well, his classmate actually saves the day in the last one.
Well, either way, they were all kids growing up in 8 movies.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's out there just in different genres, but
as far as like monster movies,
monster movies, it's very rare you see preteens getting their day, and the Monster Squad does that,
right. But yeah, Harry Potter is I think probably the only example that's out. They're fantasy,
right?
So I guess you could call Monster Squad kind of a fantasy too. Does have otherworldly, dimensional kind of thing, and as all fantasy movies do. But when I think of like kids overcoming and everything like that, I don't go to Harry Potter first. I go to Monster Squad, and I think that's the power of home video, and
it's what you grew up with
and,
too.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make There's a generation that doesn't even know the Monster Squad exists, but
the cool thing is more and more people are discovering this now.
Yeah.
I mean, just for the fact that we can watch the Monster Squad in 4K,
yeah.
Whereas you can't watch a movie like The Quiet Man, like a prestigious Oscar-winning film. That's not in 4K, but the Monster Squad is.
Right.
How about that, huh?
Well, I mean, it has an audience for it,
right?
And it just
that's what I'm saying is it didn't have one, and now it's found one, and it keeps finding newer and newer generations.
Yeah,
which is great.
And it's really weird how it didn't connect. I don't know why it didn't connect. I mean, I do have my theories. That
Lost Boys came out the same month.
Yeah, yeah,
that was a big movie. And the funny thing is, Kiefer Sutherland loved the movie.
He endorsed the movie. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, very much so.
But it's one of those things, one of those interesting things that make you go, kind of things. How could they, sleep on it, but then they rediscover it. It happens sometimes, but
yeah, and again, as I was kind of alluding to earlier, Fred Decker, it's a bittersweet movie for him because it was such a passion project for him, and then when it failed, it really crushed him.
Right.
As a filmmaker and spiritually, so he kind of wrote it off, and he really doesn't understand the resurgence and the want and demand for Monster Squad now.
Right.
I mean, because we talk about home video and the 4K, but you're also not including Fright Rags has their own Monster Squad line of T-shirts.
Oh, really?
T-shirts.
See, I didn't know about that.
T-shirts and hats and.
So how did you discover these guys?
Fright Rags, they're the premier horror apparel.
So they're still around.
Yeah, Fright Rags is like the premier.
You're the horror nut.
Yeah,
I'm not the horror nut.
Yeah,
here, so learn something new every day.
Fright Rags, they get licenses and they make just incredible graphic art T-shirts and hats, and
so they have like a whole Monster Squad line.
So they have a Monster Squad line.
Still do.
Yes,
interesting.
And it's they make really cool stuff. And
do you ever sport the gear?
I don't have the extra money to do it, or else I would, because they have.
No one's giving you anything like that for Christmas or birthdays?
No.
Oh, that's a bummer.
But I don't really do gifts on Christmas or my birthday either. So
gotcha.
I'm not a gift type person.
Gotcha.
I like giving gifts. I don't like receiving them.
Well, here's here's my list.
So Fright Rags, and they got all sorts of licenses from Elvira to the actual Universal Monsters to Halloween. But yes, one of their licenses is Monster Squad. And again, when I owned my store, I would always be coming across Monster Squad like sticker decals and stuff like that. So like the demands and anything Monster Squad I ever got in the store always went like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. People just eat it up. They love it. And there's a demand for a sequel.
There was Rob Cohen. I read, like, I think it was back in 2008.
Yeah. They were really pushing hard for one back then. And it never materialized. What we talked to Andre Gower, he has written his own sequel that he really, really is passionate about, but he can't get Fred Decker to agree to go in on it with him.
Wow.
So if it happens someday, who knows?
Well, and I think a couple of years afterwards, Michael Bay's company got involved.
Yeah.
The Platinum Dunes. I guess Cohen at that time, in 2008, he didn't want to direct it, but 2 years later, he wanted to. Mark and Brian Gunn writing the script, but nothing happened there. And then I think it was like 10 years ago, they had a couple of producers confirm that the remake was no longer in development. So it's kind of off and on. There was like a 2 or 3 year period where we were getting. I remember reading about it. I'm like, wow, Monster Squad sequel, and then nothing, and then
again, a lot of it is Fred Decker kind of like shutting it down. He went on record to say, no one wanted to watch it then. Who would want to watch a bunch of kids running around chasing monsters again? And then, as he says that, Stranger Things happens.
Yeah.
The massive, juggernaut that is Stranger Things.
Yeah, I only watched like a few episodes. I couldn't get into it for whatever
I
reason.
really love Stranger Things is awesome.
So, I mean, is it the same kind of concept?
Yeah, that was the one that was slipping my mind. Stranger Things is literally the Monster Squad.
Really? See, I tried watching a few episodes, and I know Winona Ryder was the main character, along with what's his name as the cop or something.
Yeah,
but
it's literally Monster Squad and Dungeons & Dragons combined.
Interesting. I didn't get that vibe when I watched the first 3 episodes. I was kind of like, okay, is this going anywhere? And I just couldn't get into it.
So, like, again, the point being was like Fred Dekker is saying that no one would want to watch this stuff, and then all of a sudden, bam, Stranger Things comes out, and it's the biggest thing in the television horror.
It's the only TV show where an episode is 2 hours and 45 minutes long.
Yeah. Stranger Things is just it's so fan. The first couple seasons, especially, is fantastic.
Even my wife really enjoyed it, and then there was a long gap where nothing was happening, and
COVID happen, and they couldn't do a lot, and
they delayed it even further because I think Winona had some commitments, and because I know with Beetlejuice, she paused on Stranger Things too, because she even said if this comes up, I'm gonna step aside,
right?
But that's kind of like they weren't as kind. Paramount wasn't as kind when Kevin Costner wanted to step aside from Yellowstone to direct his passion project.
Well, I mean,
anyways, but
Paramount's a different juggernaut than Netflix.
That's true.
It's.
But anyways, I didn't see that when I watched the episodes. I didn't get it was like because Winona was such a huge focus. It seemed like she was the main character.
Yeah, you have to go through it and really watch the series.
I had a hard time getting through the 4 episodes I watched. So
then you're not going to get it. You're
get into it.
Yeah.
I got it. I didn't get into it, but anyways, I didn't realize the connection with Stranger Things and Monster Squad.
Yeah. So, but there is a demand for a sequel. The cast would love to do a sequel. I know unfortunately the actor who played Horace passed away some time ago. Mm-hmm. And that's
Horace, right? The guy who played Horace.
Yep. Andre Gower says that's one of the most heartbreaking things about this is because he loved that movie so much, and the fact that he has missed out on the resurgence and the rebirth of Monster Squad.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
very young.
And again, because these guys, a good chunk of the Wolfman's Got Knives documentary is Andre, Ryan Lambert, and the girl who played Phoebe touring horror conventions, and everywhere they go, like they're the main event. They're the ones that people want to see. So it's like it's. I mean, so again, the love and appreciation for Monster Squad is so big and so loved and so wanted and desired for more. It's really incredible considering that, again, how much of a flop this movie was.
Oh, I know. And it's interesting. My name is Horace. Brent had so many interesting, very memorable dialogue.
Oh, Wolfman's Got Knives.
I know. I know. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a shame. Like you said that, I'm just reiterating that it's just a shame he couldn't see the legacy that he unknowingly was part of.
Yeah.
Because this movie does have quite the legacy. I mean, it's incredible. A movie, the little movie that actually could and did.
Yeah, and it's a bona fide cult classic.
Right. And I'm glad at least Fred is able to see it now.
I think he does see it now, but again,
it's still pretty bitter.
I still think
there's a lot of bitterness there.
Yeah, and he doesn't quite understand why now.
Right.
And unfortunately that, he still owns the rights to the Monster Squad. So if there's any shot of getting a sequel, it has to go through him. And if he has zero interest in going there, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
And, I know you're not too strong on sequels, but I think that it would be interesting to see, especially how passionate Andre talked about his draft of what they could do. He didn't give us any details on what it was.
He couldn't.
He's holding it close to the chest, but he's like, it's good, dude. It's really good, and I would love to see, and because he's become quite the filmmaker himself. And again, obviously, I don't know where he is right now with his health.
Let's take a look. I'm going to try to dig her up, but I will say this, and I know you'll disagree with me, and that's if we all thought the same way, it'd be a boring world.
Right.
But I like the idea of wanting more but not getting more. There's just something special about that. And that's
I can understand that concept.
Yeah, and I'm glad there's no sequel to Monster Squad in a way, because I'm happy and I'll always cherish that movie. And just like I really enjoyed Beetlejuice. I watched that countless times as a kid, and I never wanted any more. And that's the thing. Monster Squad, your heart is telling you I want to see more, but you don't. At the same time, does that make sense?
It does. I don't feel that way particularly about Monster Squad, only because there's so much.
Oh, they could do.
Well,
so much.
There's so much to explore with those classic monsters that.
Right.
I understand where you're coming from, but I think I would feel more about that. More Beetlejuice than Monster Squad, because Beetlejuice, you're focused on the one character Beetlejuice. There's so much to explore in the classic monster folklore world. But there's so many directions they could really go down with Monster Squad that I think would be really interesting.
Well, the last update, as we go back to Andre Gower here, you were mentioning, he nearly died. He had a massive heart attack while playing tennis with a friend. He had a pacemaker installed, and he said, in my right coronary artery ended up being 100% blocked with a giant blood clot. And according to the people that worked on me, he says, and the excellent cath lab team, we got here with about 10 minutes to spare. I know he did a Facebook video, they say. This was back, again, 2021, but there's nothing after that. So they say he's still present, years active, 1979 to the present, but I don't see anything that he's working on right now.
My brother actually has a direct contact with him. So if I could get my brother on, he might have a better answer, but I have to imagine after a serious heart attack like that.
Well, he's got a couple of things in production here.
Okay.
Robot Dracula, Isla Monstro, and The Cure. The Cure is in post-production. Isla Monstro is completed. And it looks like an animated film. I'm not sure how big of a part he plays. I don't see him in the top part of the cast. Oh, wow, Barry Bostwick is in it. Interesting. That's all I see. I don't know how big of a role he has in these, but it's good to see that he's got some stuff lined up. And
again, I do know, compared to when, where at that time he was open to doing a lot of interviews and guest appearances and stuff like that. And I know that part of his career has slowed down significantly.
Well, gosh, 100% of his art was blocked.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I don't know if that's going to change as he gets healthier, and I just hope for the best. I don't want this guy to get sick again and risk any sort of recovery because he wants to talk to geeks like us.
Yeah.
So I hope the best. I hope he's having a good recovery. A heart attack is scary. My father had one a couple of years ago, right around the same time he had his. And it's not just a terrifying heart experience on the person having the heart attack, but everybody, the family around him as well. So I hope he's taking it easy and taking care of business.
Right. Go ahead.
And if that means he's less accessible to people like us and to the conventions, so be it.
Right.
But I love the Monster Squad. I love his Wolfman Scott Nards. He's again really. So
that's like a feature-length documentary.
Yes. Yeah. It won several awards at the film festivals.
Yeah, so talk about that documentary for those who haven't seen it, because I think that's important to talk about.
So basically what he does is he teams up with, it's him, he gets together with Ryan Lambert, who played Rudy, and who played Phoebe?
Ashley Bank.
And basically what they're doing is it picks up with them kind of touring the country, making appearances at these horror conventions and getting fan reaction and thoughts on the Monster Squad, and trying to figure out why the Monster Squad is so prominent, even more prominent today than and is more popular today than it was when it first came out.
Right.
While also telling the story of the Monster Squad with Fred Decker and
because Fred was involved in that.
And everybody involved in production. So you kind of like got two things going on here. You got the story of how of the Monster Squad, and then you got the
legacy of
legacy of the Monster Squad, and then they meet in the middle at the end of the movie.
That's cool.
So it's a wonderful
So you get to see these kid actors, now adults, going to different conventions and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Ashley Banks, she's just had a child herself in the documentary, so she's bringing around her kid who's as old as she was when she did the Monster Squad. So it's like, it's cool to, and to see them, finally getting the credit they deserved, because they did such a good job with the movie.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it being like a B movie, a low budget at the time, but it doesn't feel like a low budget movie. It was just such a well produced, well directed, well executed. Everything to me was perfect with the Monster Squad. It was just such a well done film. And like you, I'm glad. But you know something? I saw that 13 minutes were cut from the film.
Yeah.
So
that has to drive you nuts.
Well, I want to just see the director's cut so I could compare.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I love about home video. I don't know if I'd watch it in the theaters, but I wouldn't mind having a home video version where you've got both cuts.
Yeah.
But I know, like, Scorsese hates director's cuts, so he'll never release director's cuts, like Gangs of New York, a 4-hour long version. Yeah. Never see it. Just like we'll probably never see the 90-plus minute version of Monster Squad. It just probably won't happen. But I'd love to. I love watching the director's cuts. 9 times out of 10, the theatrical cut is always the best. But Blade Runner is the rare exception where the final cut is actually the best cut.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, part of me would just love to see release the Decker cut.
Yeah.
He won't do it, but I know.
Wrapping up, Monster Squad, again, such an important movie to me growing up.
Important to both of us. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, not only like you, because growing up you could relate to the kids in the movies. You wanted to be at least one of them. You could compare yourself, to which one you would be in the Monster Squad, and then you got the monsters, and then for a growing horror nut like me, to see the classic monsters in color, seeing a little bit of blood, that was huge. That was like you're kind of crossing into a new territory. Right. It's not black and white and kind of toned down for you. You're getting a little edge. Right.
That's what made like the Curse of Frankenstein so interesting. Yeah. The Hammer film, because that's in color, and you see blood.
Yeah.
And you didn't see that in the Universal Monster movies.
No.
But I don't want to keep bringing up other things, but the Monster Squad was just such a. How old were you when you saw that? Because obviously it came out when the year you were born, so you didn't see it when you were a baby. So,
I gotta say it was probably around the time I started watching the classic monster movies, so probably around 5 or 6.
Okay.
When I started watching, because again I was looking for. Once I got Frankenstein and crossed that line of needing and wanting to see all the classic monsters, well, you're going through this. Well, there's Dracula, Frankenstein, on the box cover of the Monster Squad, so that was a natural pickup.
Nice.
So it was very early on in my horror movie watching.
See, I was eight-ish when I saw it on HBO. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, back then we had to wait at least a year or more
Right.
before we could actually watch something that we couldn't see in the theaters.
Right.
So that's how I discovered the Monster Squad on HBO. And again, I drove my whole family nuts with the Monster Squad.
Yeah, so-
amongst other movies.
So yes, so did we. And if I wasn't renting it, my little brother was.
Right.
It was just one of those things that every time we went to the video store, that's what we were one of the movies we were grabbing.
Now you said you always wanted to be a member of them. Which one would you have been?
Well, actually, it was funny. If you go back and listen to our, so we do two. Scarefire did 2 Monster Squad
2 wow.
episodes. We did one where we reviewed the movie like we're talking now, and then there's the Andre Gower movie or interview that we did.
Right.
I'm on the review, and at the end of the show, we were like, we all decided, all right, everybody kind of wanted to be their own character in the movie, and it was based on personality-wise, which character would fit you. It was agreed in there that based on my personality and how I behave, I was most related to Sean.
Okay.
My brother, Patrick.
Okay.
So everybody wants to be Rudy because Rudy was the cool kid. But just based on our personalities, that's kind of where we just agreed where we landed on.
Yeah.
How about you, Chris?
Well, I think everyone wanted, like you said, Rudy or Sean. That's the one I wanted to be. But if you go by personality, it was probably Horace.
Horace.
For me.
Hey, listen, best lines in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Best lines in the movie.
I can't tell you. I as someone who struggled with weight their entire life and very sensitive about that, and something I've worked hard to. When I dropped 80 pounds in a 6-month stretch, that was something I was proud of. But I'm still I don't ever make fun of people's weight because I know how I am about it. And it's something I kind of, people made fun of my weight when I was a kid, and I can totally relate to Horace. I relate to Horace more than any other character in the movie. So
and that's kind of how we based off. Our.
But I would have probably, I would have probably directed the shotgun towards someone else, not the monster. Even though the monster is trying to kill me.
Listen, growing up in the 80s and 90s, who did not hate Jason Hervey?
The Wonder Years.
Well, whether it was the Monster Squad or the Wonder Years, you wanted to punch the guy in the face.
Right.
And I'm sure he's a wonderful person in real life, but he played the biggest jerks you could possibly imagine on TV.
He even played a kind of a jerky character in Back to the Future,
Yeah. So,
what do you mean a rerun's brand new?
Yeah. So,
what's a rerun?
Yes, guys.
Again, Shout Factory has made an amazing 4K set of Monster Squad, and they just announced, I think later on this year, if you just want to get the Wolfman's Got Nards on Blu-ray, they're releasing that separately from the Monster Squad package. Cool. But if you don't have Monster Squad on VHS, you never had the Laserdisc or Betamax or you named the home media, it was on there. So if you don't have it anywhere and you love the Monster Squad as much as we do, the 4K 3-disc set is a no-brainer. So again, Monster Squad, do you like the movie? Do you hate it? Tell us about it. Again, you could subscribe. Highly recommend it because you never miss an episode. When you log into your YouTube account or app, you'll get notified instantly when a new episode is available for you to consume. So Monster Squad, comment below. Tell us what you thought. You can also reach out to us through X, Instagram, Facebook. Our handle is at Scared for Reels. And this is a special 1987 series within a series. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
We'll see you next time on Scared for Reels.